Well, hello there guys, and welcome back to another little episode of, that's right, all together now, the WARFRAME. And today, Coffee Barbarian is at Fortuna, because I'm doing a whole little series of how I ranked up at certain places and that I'm still ranking up at certain places. So today we're going to have a little in-depth look at how you can earn standing at Fortuna, what you need to rank up and what it all means. Have a look at the NPCs, have a little roam around, and a few extra bits of information coming your way. So if this helps you in any way, please consider liking and or subscribing, because I need your validation. I need your support on YouTube, because, you know, algorithms and all that shizzle. So don't be tight. Come on, doesn't take a second. Just hit that little thumbs up for me. Come on. It'll make my day, and it tickles when you do it. Let's get into it. So getting straight into it, my darlings, go to your navigation, and if you're still on Earth and you haven't made it to Venus yet, you need to complete the Venus Junction by doing Vor's Prize, Sayer's Vigil, which you'll find on Cetus, and fusing any mod up, which you can do in your little mod station in your orbiter. And then once you've wound your way over to Venus, you then need to do the E-Gate mission and the Under mission, and that will unlock your access to Fortuna. And then you'll kind of be invited to do another quest, which is the Vox Solaris quest. And then you head to Fortuna. And just a little note, when you first start the game, to rank up with any syndicate, you have a daily standing cap of 16,000. And that increases every time you pass an MR test, so you get an extra 500 per MR. So I am now a MR 32 essentially, and I get a daily standing cap of 32,000. However, that goes down obviously once you start earning your daily standing. And to rank up to level 1 Outworlder, you're going to need 2 training debt bonds. It used to be 13, so don't complain. And 10,000 credits and 5,000 standing. I will give you the comparisons. They nerfed it back in February 2024. You are so welcome, because it used to be an actual grind. And then to rank up to 2 Rapscallion, you're going to need 3 shelter debt bonds, 2 training debt bonds, and 22,000 standing and 25,000 creds. And to rank up to rank 3 Doer, you're going to need 4 medical debt bonds, 3 shelter debt bonds, 2 training debt bonds, 50,000 credits, and 44,000 standing. And to rank up to Cove level 4, you're going to need 5 advances debt bonds, 4 medical debt bonds, and 3 shelter debt bonds, plus 100,000 credits and 70,000 standing. And then to reach Old Mate level 5, the final level, you need 5 familial debt bonds, 5 advances debt bonds, and 3 medical debt bonds, plus 200,000 credits and 99,000 standing, and then you can be an Old Mate. So obviously the first and most obvious way to earn standing here at Fortuna is to do the bounties. You get standing and it increases as you go up the difficulty levels, and each bounty rewards you with something juicy and delicious like Garuda parts. You get the debt bonds here, all the different types, the shelter, the training, the medical, the familial, the advances. You've just got to pick your battles, and there are some other goodies to be had here, so it is worth trying to get the bounties done, maybe with some help if you go in public squads. There's often people out there battling away to get their debt bonds, and as you can imagine, when you needed 15 of them, you had to be a lot more tactful of where you were going to get them, and there are other places you can get them here. And that being said, let's go and have a look at the NPCs around, because Ticker up here sells, or should I say trades and sells, debt bonds. You basically have to trade in parts that you would get here at Fortuna plus credits for the debt bonds that you need. And it was a useful way back in my day when you needed 15 of the same one to boost up your debt bond grabbage, and now it's not so necessary because you don't need as many. Ticker also sells like bits and pieces for your orbiter or dojo. They hire out railjack crew, which is very useful when you get to the railjack. And also I think at Valentine's events they will sell things like, I think it's the Eros wings, or they'll just sell pretty things for your orbiter, so always worth coming and checking it out. And one of your first stops should definitely be the business, because the business sells the trank rifle. And the trank rifle, although I don't use it a ton here at Fortuna, I used it a ton on the Cambion Drift at the Necrolis. That helped me get my standing up there. There will be an episode on that, so the trank rifle definitely a must. And the shock rod fishing spear, later on you will get the stunner fishing spear from here, and that is pretty damn useful. And obviously you'll get your echo lures and your baits and there's mods here now, there's all sorts to be got. So the business is kind of more to do with the fishing and the hunting here at Fortuna, which we will have a look at shortly. And let's quickly head on to Smokefinger. This is the guy that deals with all the gems from the mining. And one of the first things you're going to want to do is invest in this Sunpoint plasma drill, because it's just better. I always feel like I'm more successful getting the rarer stuff with it. And here you can buy eventually, when you've unlocked them, by ranking up some widgets which will automatically apply to that drill. And it basically makes you quieter and gives you a longer beam length. So, drilling becomes easier. And he also sells blueprints here for components that you're going to need to make to build other things. Obviously, once you've done your minings, you take these blueprints back to your foundry and then build them, however many you need. But obviously they are locked behind ranking up here. And taking a look at one of my favourite NPCs here, Rude Zudd, because she deals with the Kitguns, and I am a lover of a Kitgun. Eventually, when you unlock the Necrolisc and Father there, he also sells Kitgun parts, and you can interchange them from Fortuna to Necrolisc and build a random amazing Kitgun. Here though, we have a variety to choose from. There's 3 components I think that you need, but she also sells arcanes. I don't know if you have to unlock arcane adapters for these, but the pack's charge is so useful because it basically takes away the need for ammo for your weapon. It recharges and you never run out of ammunition. How cool is that? I love my Kitguns. And the final NPC here, there are 2 other characters to think about here, but they have their own set of standings, so they will probably come with another episode. But his legs, and this guy builds mowers for you, which is a form of companion, and eventually when you unlock them, hounds as well. And there are a few different types to choose from. There's only 1 component on most of the things that you can build in the game that earns affinity. And it's worth checking those out if you're an affinity farmer. You don't want to be repeating yourself for no particular reason. But he also sells the weapons here for those companions as well. Obviously you need all the different components to build them, which is why you're going to be working very hard here at Fortuna to earn those blueprints and earn the parts to get them built. It's a work in progress, and a lot of these things are locked behind ranking up here. Just to be clear, they're not all available to you as you start on rank 1. And let's briefly mention the other 2 areas in this game, which aren't particularly standing for Fortuna themselves. They have their own rankings and standings within them. The Ventkids is basically a whole K-drive alarmations, and there is a Ventkid type quest going on. I still haven't done mine. I think it's Wave Rider, where you earn standing. You can earn the standing by going out and do the races and the tricks and everything out on the free roam, but I never enjoyed that. But I will get into it because it's something I need to complete in the game. And you can come here and buy component parts and build your own K-drives once you've done that. It's got nothing to do with Fortuna standing though, unfortunately. And you can buy mods for them, Urelli here, and you can also buy reduced price for platinum K-drives pre-built for you, which is what I did on this occasion. And the final NPC here I'm going to mention is Little Duck, and she also has her own ranking and standing, but you, to unlock Little Duck, must be Old Mate rank 5 here with Udico, and then you head around to the right of Udico and there's a little back room here, and oh, she's here again. But this gives you access to the Profit Taker bounty and the Exploiter Orb bounty. You can do the Exploiter Orb on free roam on Orb Vallis as long as you've got Diluted Thermia. But it does open up the Profit Taker bounties, and you kind of need them for very specific toroids to rank up with Little Duck, and it helps you boost up your Atmos systems, etc. to rank up with Little Duck. I won't go into a huge amount of detail here now because Little Duck is all about the amps, and she's very much linked to Quilonco on Cetus because of that, and I haven't fully ranked up with either of them yet on this playthrough, so I'm going to do that as a separate episode because I feel like it's very much a separate thing to ranking up on Fortuna, but it's all very much tied in, and you have to be your operator to deal with Little Duck and interact with her. But like I said, she sells amps, and it's very much like with the Kitguns, you can intermingle them with Quilonco amp parts and build all sorts of hybrid weapons there, and it's good fun. But you're going to need toroids, and we'll get into that probably on another episode, because I have lots of hints and tips for those. Oh, and the other thing I need to briefly touch upon is another way you can earn standing for Fortuna Udico to rank up to Old Mate is by doing Corpus tile set missions. Now, it's not every single one. There are 28 across the map, mainly on Venus. We have Mars, Phobos, Europa, Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto, and Eris. Not, again, every single mission, but there are Granum prisoners to be had within those missions that you can free using a Granum, an Exemplar, or a Zenith crown, and that will give you some amount of standing. And once you've done the Deadlock Protocol quest, and you can go into the Granum Void for your Protea farm, etc., with your Zoris, which you get from doing the Deadlock Protocol quest, and then you head into the Golden Hand and you just fling that bad boy at the enemies until you charge it up, and then you can fling it at the, I think there's 3 prisoners ish, and you get 200 standing per prisoner, so you can make 800 from here alone. And then if you're freeing prisoners within the mission as well, you can make over that, so maybe over 1,000 or more standing for one of these missions. That's not too shabby, is it, really, when you're doubling down? It's for the future, but it's something to bear in mind if you are grinding for the standing for the grinding, I was going to say. And now to the huntings. So once you've got your trank rifle and you've equipped it on your gear loadout wheel, go out on free roam. Best to go solo because, you know, host migration is irritating. And if you have bought the Echo Lure for the different species, these will show up on your map. If you haven't, they won't. You can wander around with your trank rifle and just look down the sights. You'll hear animals calling out to you. You can hunt that way. But to have the Echo Lures, it just means you can go to specific places, trigger the little scat pile, you literally go hunting, follow their little glowy footsteps, and then when you get to the triggering point, this point, you then equip your Echo Lure for that species that you will have. So this is the Harask, I don't know how to pronounce it, and the Echo Lure can be a bit confusing. I did do a video on it, I might do a better one. There are different animals, as you can see, to buy the Echo Lures for. And then you've just got to mimic them. So you trigger it just by squeezing the trigger button. And then once you've actually baited one and called one in, you then have to copy their sort of voice signal, which means keeping the glowing light in the moving white reticle. So it's just basically moving your cursor up and down with the reticle moving at the same time. It's a bit tricky, but you don't have to get it perfect. And around this point, if you have bait as well, you can drop bait down, and all bait does is bring in the rarer species. Now, I don't know if you can actually trade the tags for standing here. I don't think you can. So I don't actually ever do a huge amount of hunting on Fortuna for that reason. But it is good to get the tags under your belt because you can buy stuff with those tags from the business, you know, floofs and whatnot. We'll have a look at that now. And as you can see, it kind of spawned in quite quickly, and this one was right in front of us. Luckily, you find all sorts in caves, you find the birds up on the giant mushroom things, and depending on how quickly you take them down, it depends on whether you get a perfect capture or not. I had a resource booster on at this point, so that's why my tags were boosted up. It does work like that, so having a resource booster will boost up your results from fishing, from mining, from hunting, so it's always worth coming out and doing a round robin on all the different areas when you've got one, if you get one. Sometimes you get like a 12-hour booster when you log in and stuff like that, or a blessing. So it's all worthwhile doing. So once you've done your huntings, whether you're doing it via the Echo Lure or just wandering around and shooting things and hoping for the best, you will go back to the business and trade in your tags for various goodies. And I don't know if that's new, but whilst editing this video, I realised that you can actually make quite a lot of standing out of a perfect capture on Orb Vallis of the wildlife. So that's a reason to go and hunt, at least. And then you can buy all the floofs that your heart desires. And as you can see, I have now changed to Loki, actually Loki Prime, because I just fancy going invisible for a bit. For my gem hunting, my mining, you don't need to be invisible at all. It just makes things a bit easier because, you know, less enemies will see you and hear you. And I mean, it would help with the hunting as well. Anyway, equip your drill, whichever you may have, as long as it's on your gear wheel. And on mine, I get those little white dots and beeping appearing in my game. Somebody I was playing with on, I think it was PlayStation, said he couldn't hear beeping when he had his drill out. Now, I'm not sure if that's just an in-game setting or whether there's something you have to add. I don't think there's anything you have to add. It should just beep at you. And it kind of tells you that there's a vein close. And as you can see, we are drilling away on the red veins. Oh, I got a Thist. I think I'm getting the rare stuff, and obviously I got a resource booster here, so the Thist usually pick up 1, and they are rare to get to drop. Having a resource booster gives you 2, you know, is worth it. And taking the time to get the end point in these reticles just boosts up your chances possibly of getting the rarer stuff or more of the stuff that you do get to drop. And going into caves is definitely a must if you want to be a spelunker and go and look for all the caves on Fortuna, on Orb Vallis. There is, again, many images and pages you can find on the internet if you care to look for locations for the caves. If you can't be bothered to fly around and look for them yourself, they will tell you. And I kind of like coming out here solo, you know, chilling out, maxing out, relaxing, all cool, and just seeing what I can find. And just learning the map as well without the pressure of the host migration and people starting bounties, etc. And as you can see, I came back with some loot. I do have a resource booster on at this point, so that's why I got more than normal. And then I headed back to Smokefinger and I sold some of my gems for standing. Now, if I was still building stuff, some of these gems, or most of them, would be components to build further blueprints, which would then become components to build other things, possibly like Garuda parts or Kitgun parts. So bear that in mind before you sell all your gems for standing. I mean, you just have to go and grind out some more. It's not the end of the world. But don't get too carried away, okay? And now on to the fishings, and make sure your fishing rod, whichever one you bought, is equipped to your gear wheel loadout, and all the other fishing rods you buy will be attached to that one gear wheel loadout. You'll be able to choose from a subheading, and you have in the bottom right there your different fishing rods, your different baits available, and the glowy stuff, the luminous stuff, I can't remember what it's called, and also a pheromone that slows them down if you want to try and slow them down. Putting bait in obviously only really works if you're in the right place. Again, WARFRAME Wiki or Reddit, they will tell you the best bait to use where and when on the map. There are tons of maps with like glowing pictures all over them to guide players. Now, I do have a Synathid spot that I like to go, and as long as you've got 2 Synathid bait, it seems to work every time for me. I don't know if they changed it as well, made it easier, I'm not sure. But bait only really works for that particular species if you're in the right type of water body at the right time of day, i.e. cold or warm. And it's just worth paying attention to. It will tell you on the bait as well when you buy it when and where to use it, but you might not understand the difference between a pond or a lake or whatever. It took me a moment to learn it. And also, I don't know if you saw earlier, I pointed out the Oxalis companion. Once you get hold of that, you can buy it from the market. It comes with a scan aquatic life form mod, and it will literally do as you see on the screen now without using that glowy, luminous, pheromone stuff. And it'll glow up the fishies for you automatically. And it will also show you the hotspots on the map with a little picture of a fish. So you can just go straight to the good places. It's super useful for fishings. And now, my darlings, let us whisk ourselves away to this cave, particularly to the left of the spaceport. I go to this cave, there's a little pond in here, and it always spawned in Synthethids for me. Now, Synthethids, I'm just focusing on those for a moment because they're one of the rarer fish here. Don't know if they changed the spawn-in rate, maybe increased it. There seems to be quite a few here. God, I used to stand here for like an hour waiting for them to spawn in, and now they just spawn in. But I would always get them eventually. So the first thing I did was put my Illuminous dye in, then 1 Synathid bait, and I just carried on fishing. I changed to my Stunner fishing spear because once you've unlocked it, obviously you have to rank up at Fortuna before you can buy it. It basically stuns fish in the close proximity, and there you go, there's a Synathid, a wild one in the pond. Woo! God, they used to be so rare. Maybe they still are, and I'm just very lucky. Anyway, I got really impatient, so I chucked another one in. I always tend to put 2 baits in for the rarer fish anyway. Don't know if it changes anything or increases the chances, but another few spawned in, as we can see. And they are quite a small target, so obviously the Stunner fishing spear can help, so other targets down. Or you can get the yellow pheromone, which is like the yellow version of the luminous dye. I think you get it from Cetus, not sure if the business sells it. Whack it in and it will slow the fishies down a bit. But as you can see, the Synthethids weren't massively fast. It's just if you miss them, they do that little spazzy wiggle. And before you know it, you're like chasing them all over the place. But I got quite a few spawn in. I don't know if it's because I put the 2 baits in. I'm not really sure whether the RNG gods were just smiling upon me. Who knows when it comes to WARFRAME farming? But my recommendation is once you've got your rare stuff, always go back into Fortuna to save your progress. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but it has glitched the game a couple of times in the past for me. Learned the hard way, especially when doing bounties and things like that, to just go in and save your goodies. And so it follows, that's exactly what I did. I went back to Fortuna, saved my progress and reviewed my goodies, and because I had a resource booster, it had doubled up all the fishies that I'd caught. That's useful, isn't it? And then my next option was to go to the business, and you have two things you can do with these fish. You can provide them for standing, and obviously different types of the same species, whether it's basic, adorned, etc., are worth different amounts of standing. And the synthesis, because they're rare, obviously you've had to invest some standing into the bait to be able to catch them anyway. But this one, oh my goodness, it was 1,000 standing. Not too shabby if you want to do the fishings and you enjoy that. The other option, which is kind of necessary near the beginning of the game when you're building stuff, is to dismantle those fish. So you might specifically be looking for a very particular part. You will have to figure that out, which fish you need to come and find, which bait, when to go out. Dismantle them and you will get the parts needed to build the various blueprints available here at Fortuna. And I'm just going to briefly mention a couple other things here, not specifically about ranking up here at Fortuna, but things that are happening at Fortuna. And I mentioned Diluted Thermia earlier for the Exploiter Orb. That's the only thing that can trigger the Exploiter Orb. And you only get it from Thermia Fractures or the Thermia Fracture events. I will do a separate little Thermia Fracture video, but you basically go out onto the Orb Vallis, go up to the Temple of Prophet, find those little blue coolant arachnoid thingamajiggers. They're usually scuttling around under the Prophet Taker that's bossing everybody around up there. Grab one of those blue coolants, and then if you can get your team together, if you all drop one in at the same time, the rewards from your Thermia Fracture will be better. It's basically like a defense. You're defending this Thermia Fracture until it's healed, and once you've done it and you do a few and you keep scaling up, you will basically receive amalgam mods at the end, plus a few other goodies. It's kind of a good way of getting the mods in, but it's also the place you get, like I mentioned, the Diluted Thermia. And that is important for the Exploiter Orb, y'all. And that is where you get very specific toroids to rank up here. I'm just saying, it's all linked, you know, all interlinked. And the other last thing I wanted to mention that isn't specific to Fortuna, but happened to be at Fortuna for me while I was recording this episode, is Clan Dojo Pigment Research. Basically colours to make your dojo look beautiful. You can only research one colour at a time, so if you go out into any mission across the game and you start picking up pigment, that means your clan dojo are specifically researching that colour at that point. It just so happened that the cyan pigment that I was researching for our dojo spawns in on Orb Vallis, so these kind of little mobile defense areas, really, you don't have to do a bounty. You just come here, kill a few enemies. One of them will drop a data mass. It does happen within bounties as well. There's a few areas on Orb Vallis. Drop the data mass into that glowing orange pod, and then you sort of start a defense essentially, and at some point the specific enemies that is linked to that pigment will come in, you shooty bang bang them, and hopefully they'll drop some pigment for you. It's quite the farm to get what you need, and if you have a large clan, it scales up how much you need. It takes quite the team effort to get it. So if you've got those pigments sat in your inventory and you just pick them up, go and see if you can contribute them to your dojo. And that being said, our dojo, our clan is full at the moment. I'm trying to expand it, but obviously that scales up the research that we need, and there's a few more colours that we need. And in the meantime, we have a Discord where people can come and game away on the voice chat or just ask for help, specifically for Warframe, yes, but I am more than happy for other games to be included. I'm not just going to play Warframe for the rest of my life, obviously, darlings. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope it's been of some use to you. I will do separate episodes for the Thermia Fractures and the Clan Dojo Pigments and things like that, if you are interested. If not, don't worry about it. Just come and hang out with me on Discord, man. The link is on my channel. And I just want to say thank you for joining me. It's really been very good to have you here. I hope you've learned something. If so, drop me a like, drop me a comment, say hi. Some people are being a bit nasty about my old videos on YouTube. They haven't realised that I've improved things. I think they specifically think I'm a guide channel. I'm not. I wasn't. I was just having fun, and now I'm trying to use my knowledge and help other players. So, you know, if you like what I'm doing, drop me some support. If you don't, bye. It's been nice having you here. You probably haven't made it to the 24-minute mark, let's face it. So, my darlings that have remained, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope to see you again in the next one. But for now, you take care and goodbye.